Jimapsu.
Hi, this is Real Talk on Khmer TV.
And today we are talking about the current real estate market.
So,
So as if you don't know, Janet is a realtor or a real estate?
realtor.
Realtor. What is the difference between realtor and real estate?
Realtor is the person, and real estate is the business, is the industry. So basically, I just wanted to share with everybody, right? Because right now, there's a lot of things going on. Did you know that the interest rate is really low right now?
So would you say that's a great time to buy?
Yes, yes. Especially if you have great credit. Now, real estate is interesting because it's a balance, right? You want to have great credit, and you want to buy when the interest rate is low, because that means you could buy more homes, right? Bigger home. Because if the interest rate is high, it means that the house now, the value could be $500,000, but if the interest rate is 6%, that means your mortgage payment is higher too. So it is so interesting and it's tricky. Do you remember when there's that housing crash back then, and everybody lost their homes and stuff? Well, right now real estate has recovered really well. And so this is the best time to invest in properties. And so basically, there's a lot of people who are flipping properties.
Yes, I know a couple that is younger than me, and they did flipping houses, more than 5 houses in a year. So that's pretty good.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I was talking to a lady who is a broker. Here's an interesting thing. Right now, there are more what you call young buyers, millennials, right?
Yes.
And when they buy in a way where it's different from old timers now, okay? They use technology a lot. Would you agree?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And your daughter uses a lot of technology too, right?
Of course, yes.
Okay. So basically, the trend for millennials and younger buyers are more digital. And so when they do transactions, it's more like DocuSign. No longer do they do things old-fashioned way where they wait for the FedEx and have it couriered over to one office to another, right? They use an app. So basically, they look at the app and whatever app they use, and they look at homes around there. It's really powerful now that these apps are helping them to identify home value, and they're able to take a little more power among themselves. But the only thing that they run into is the human factor, okay? A lot of agents out there are like, oh gosh, all these apps and technology is going to kind of take away their presence, right, as agents out there. I will tell you one thing is people will always rely on people, Mene.
Yes.
Like you will look at the app, but then also you're going to say, when it takes time to buy and look at the house, you still rely on a friend or family member. What has your experience been?
Well, actually, I use Zillow.
Okay.
And recently, I just downloaded Redline, I believe.
Okay.
And so what I like about it is that I can put in the price range that I want, the location that I want, and then the houses pops up.
Yeah.
So instead of bother my realtor all the time, say, hey, I want to see this house. Hey, can you inquire this house for me? All the information is on there. How much the mortgage is going to be, how the interest, what the kind of insurance, and the HOA and all these things is included. And then what I usually do is I will drive to the address first to look at the location, the neighborhood, and then that's when I determine if I want to see inside the house or not. So I think it cut a lot of time consuming for my realtor and for me, because rather than just wait for my realtor to contact the person and then go and find out the day of an appointment and I don't like the neighbor. So this helps a lot.
Okay.
And that's what I like. And I like Zillow versus other apps because
Okay.
it's easier to use.
Yeah.
And it's just a click of a button.
Yeah. I would agree with you because when I sold a property last year, my customer, her mom, actually, she's 60, Khmer. She's in her mid 50s, 60. She used her computer and also her iPad, and she's like, when they get older, they don't sleep, so they're looking at homes, right?
All night long.
Oh, they're fishing. They're using those apps, and then first thing in the morning, Nisai, because they know my Cambodian name, and they're like, oh, I want this, this, and this. I'm like, great, send me the link. I look it up, and then and then I said, well, I'll make the contact. Ultimately, that's a great way of expediting your way of looking for homes is the app, and I don't feel threatened when people use apps. I think is great because it makes people a little more efficient, and it just makes them like, hey, I know what I want. I'm going to look inside the house, and do the mortgage payment. And for me, I always tell people, sometimes realtors don't see your financial information, and I just want people to know that. It's like in my situation, I remove myself from that because sometimes people are like, we're kind of like family, and I don't want them to know how much money I make. So I'm like, that's great. In that situation, just know that your realtor doesn't have to know your financial situation. They can also separate themselves and let the lender do it and just pre-qualify. But let me share you the steps, right? If you were to be a person who's going to look for a house, right? So the steps to looking for a home is always to get pre-qualification, okay? Because you just don't know. Sometimes it's like eating, right? Your eyes are bigger than your stomach. And I know you don't eat that much. So if you eat a buffet, you'll probably pay a lot more than what you eat. Same thing here is sometimes we want something bigger than what we qualify for. And then it might waste your time when you get brokenhearted where your payment doesn't make sense, right? So people normally should just get pre-qualification and get all the information to the loan officer and say, okay, what is your debt and how much money are you making? And then they call it, debt to loan value, right? So if you're making $5,000 and then the mortgage payment and everything is going to be $4,000, that is too high, the ratio. So they don't want you to be out of be eating crackers and then not living either. So your debt to income ratio has to be very different, where you have to make more money versus how much you're spending. Okay? And a lot of people don't know this, but they should also check the credit. Okay? Make sure that your credit's healthy, because surprisingly, people don't know that when they pull up the credit, there's a car payment. You got to get rid of the car payment. There's a lot of things that you have to get rid of in order to qualify to get a loan, because a loan, they just look at you and they're like, they want to make sure that you don't have too much what's called revolving debt. And so in a case where the person has okay credit, and they want to clean the credit up, they can also do that too. And so if you're going to buy a house within 6 months to a year, right? Pull up your credit, and you can get that free, an annual free credit. Look at all the 3 levels. There's 3 different credit bureaus, and one is always higher than the other. And then take a look at what your debt is, right? And then you just want to make sure that you clean it, pull it up, because did you know that your interest is affected by the credit score?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So same thing like buying a car. So basically, if you want to get a better interest, just make sure that the credit is higher, or you could put a higher down payment or have a co-signer. So that's just like one step of buying a house is, to get pre-approval, because you know that the housing market is so crazy. my aunt's house, her neighbor, right? She put it on the market. Within a day, is above asking price. Okay, it's crazy, and so you would be brokenhearted if you don't like have that financials ready, right? Because the seller, the seller and the seller realtor, first thing they're going to ask you when you approach them, they're going to go, "Are you pre-approved, pre-qualified?" And you're like, "What's the difference, right? Pre-approved and pre-qualified." Pre-qualification is you giving all the documentation, the bank documentation in terms of your statement, your salary, anything that proves all your funding and how much money you have, and it goes into the mortgage lender's information. So then they will definitely is a good pre-qualification, and then so then when you find that house, right? They write a letter saying that you are pre-qualified, you're good to go, because when you submit an offer, right? When you submit an offer, they're going to go, "Do you have that pre-qualification letter?" If you don't, guess what's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
They're going to go to the next offer, and then they won't take you seriously. You know, especially in this market, it's like if you don't have a pre-qualification, it almost makes your realtor look like they don't know what they're doing. Like, excuse me, I know I run into a lot of people go, "Oh, don't worry, Kampoy, I have good credit, I have a lot of money." I'm like, okay, good, that's great, you know, but also, do you really want to waste your time? You don't go through that process. So it's like, are you serious? I know you have a lot of money, but are you serious? Mene?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It sounds like it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else do you have to do?
I know, so in terms of selling a house, right? For a seller. For a seller, there's certain steps, right? Sellers are like, they have to make sure that their house is in good condition to sell. The roof, the water heater, and if it's an HOA, right?
Okay.
You have to disclose how much is the HOA. As a buyer, don't forget, because like in Irvine, as a buyer, they have metal roofs and they have HOA, and that's really expensive. And so the difference between the two is you're adding 2 layers of payment onto your mortgage already. You know, so
Yes,
for
it can add up.
yeah, and so for a seller, you know, you just have to make sure that your house is, you do a pre-inspection, okay? You don't want a surprise, because if somebody sends in to do an inspection on your house, you're like, "Oh, I didn't know that." So just make sure that, you know, your agent does the right thing for you to make sure the water heater is kind of secure. You do the inspection, and everything's kind of done ahead of time before you list it, right? And then do an appraisal. Just make sure that you know that, you know, what the value of the house is like.
Okay, so first you get to pre-qualify, and then you got to, if you're a seller, you gotta inspect the house. Okay.
Yeah.
What else you have to do? You have to be in good credit if you're a buyer.
Yes.
Okay. So what else do you have to do?
So like for a buyer, right? If you have 2 people buying, you're in good luck, right? Because then normally for flippers, right? They don't really put a lot down, so they put like a small amount down, just like because they know that they're going to sell it, right? But there's a trick between flipping too, because the bank is also going to go, "Hey, is this an income property? Are you going to live in it, or how are you going to determine?" So be very careful in terms of how you are going to do that too as a flipper, right? And then as a seller, you just want to make sure that you know, you market your house in the right price. You know, I think it's always good to market it at the right level price, and you get people outbidding each other, right? They're like, "Oh, what a good deal," and you get people going above instead of going really high, like 20% higher than it should be. And then as a realtor, you have to bring the price down, right? And when a house is on the market for more than 30 days, it's stale. And that doesn't look good on the realtor. And then so as a good broker, right? That broker should do what you call a preview sale. Okay, so a preview sale would mean that before they put it on the market, MLS, they kind of go to other brokers and they do an announcement. So that beats the market, you know. And so then, you know, they could also then put it on the MLS, but the fact that they use social media is really good. So, you know, YouTube, video, Instagram, or anything that will help promote the property will really help. So you just want to work with somebody who has a strong social media presence.
Okay, great information to share. What else is there to share?
I think that if people can take advantage of the low interest rate now, right, then definitely do that. And my question to you, we were just talking earlier, does name brand matter when you're selling a house as a seller? And does like $1 million house and location, what's in your opinion like brand, like do you go with like, okay, the name brand so-and-so or it's relationship? So what do you think?
Well, I'm not a seller and I never been in the situation, so I would not be the right person to give that opinion. Okay. So you should share that opinion with us.
So name brand counts to a certain degree, right?
Okay.
Okay, so like relationship always sell. I mean, when a buyer's looking to buy a home, my aunt would come to me, my cousin, my friend. So they don't care if I belong to XYZ because they're just using me to buy the house, right? So as a buyer agent, I don't think it really matters, okay? But when you're selling a property, it really depends on, I guess, you know, as I am selling my property and I'm picking a person who represents a company, right? And so maybe I want to go to Seal Beach, Newport Beach, right? And I want a company that has a national presence, maybe, you know. But what's really important for me is what can that agent, the realtor, do for me? Are they able to promote my home on social media platform, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on, you know, LinkedIn, right? So what can this realtor do for me as opposed to name brand? I think it's like exposure, right?
Okay.
If the agent can really promote my property and work with me and make me feel comfortable that they know what they're doing, then I think, you know, it doesn't really matter as much unless it's crucial in terms of it's a $10 million house, you know. I think like number one thing is relationship. Relationship will always, you know, trump over everything, and being persistent and being in front of the market, right? Knowing your stuff and just going around networking with people so that, you know that as a realtor, you're doing the best job possible for the person that you're working for. And did you know that the person who's selling the house, that you as an agent, right, me or whatever, we have a financial duty to them, okay? So here's something that people may not share with you is that if there's an offer to a house, even if it's lower, an agent has to take it to their seller and say, hey, Nancy, this house is worth this much. Are you going to take the offer or not? You would have to say reject or accept. I can't just assume that you're not going to accept that, okay?
It's only fair.
Yes, so it's a fiduciary duty that the realtor has for you. You are my boss, okay? Because we wrote a contract, you know. And so I find that a lot of people kind of forget that, and when other agents come to them and say, hey, I want to make an offer, I find that sometimes the agent doesn't communicate it to, you know, the seller.
Well,
right?
then whoever it is need to fire that realtor
Yeah.
because that's not the right conduct to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anything about that. It seems like I'm the only person that I know of that do not have a realtor license. So, but it would only be fair, you know, if someone made an offer that the realtor would bring it up to their clients no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, and that is a wrap for realtor, real estate up to date. Call it Realtor 101 to whatever it is. And so thank you, Janet, for all those useful information. Hopefully that it is useful to the viewers. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Janet or Khmer TV for more information. Or I'm pretty sure you already know someone that is a realtor in your life. So
Right. Your aunt, your brother, your sister, your cousin.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. Well, thank you for watching.